Tonight, expectations are high as close to a dozen ministers were being appointed recently were being installed into their functions in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, while some are hoping that some Anglophone ministers are going to seek solutions to the current socio-political crisis rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. A political analyst is going to be telling us in this newscast, questioning what old faces that have been ministers already in the said regime are going to be bringing as far as changes in Cameroon are concerned. That is our lone headline for tonight. We shall be right back. Stay with us. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox television. Let's begin right here in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, to talk about commitment, loyalty and teamwork that were the watchwords of the 11 new members of the BIA government appointed on the 2nd of March 2018. The Prime Minister of government was given the recommendation while commissioning them into their functions in different ceremonies that took place today in Yaoundé. It started with the pioneer Minister of Territorial Administration, Paula Tanganji, then the Minister of Decentralization, George Elanga Obam. We equally had the installation of the Minister of Secondary Education, Dr. Nalova Lyonga, the Minister of Finance in Cameroon, Louis Pomutaze, the Minister of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, Alamin Ousmane May, the Minister of Forestry and Wildlife, Jules Doreen Dongwa, and that of Transport, Ns. Masena Ngale Bibehe. That was the ceremony that saw the installation of the new Minister of Secondary Education, Dr. Nalova Lyonga, who is former Vice Chancellor of the University of Boya in the southwest region of Cameroon. And talking about the newly appointed ministers in Cameroon, relatives of Elung Paul Che have continued celebrating his appointment as well as installation as he was being installed today in the nation's capital as the Assistant Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic. His own sister is indicating that her expectations are high. She's expecting that the brother would be able to tackle the current socio-political crisis rocking the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon that has so far been tormenting the population of Tombel in the Kupe Maninguba division of the southwest region of Cameroon. Let's have the details with Innocent Aze.
They have not stopped celebrating the presidential appointment and official installation of one of theirs, Elung Paul Che, as Assistant Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic. They are overwhelmed and cannot express their joy.
The happiness is too much in a way that I cannot even express.
Relatives continue to praise God as well as thanking the head of state for the blessing. Elung Paul's elder sister is optimistic her brother can better the escalated Anglophone crisis.
I want to talk to my brother for him to help and solve the problem that we are facing in Northwest and Southwest, for him to bring peace.
His previous impacts on the population have bestowed confidence on many who believe he will bring positive changes in Kupe Maninguba division.
And I know say he get for he had many more things to do for Tombel people.
Paul Elung Che, before his appointment and installation as Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, served as Minister Delegate in the Ministry of Finance.
And in reaction to the cabinet shake-up on the 2nd of March 2018, a civil society actor who is equally a historian, Mr. Ngindo Gibet, criticized President Paul Biya for ignoring criticisms from the population in his appointment. He said that those who are highly condemned over poor services are the same who were appointed to higher positions. Mr. Ngindo Gibet, however, said that ceremonials or Cameroonians in general should expect something new from the new but old government of President Paul Biya. He was speaking on an exclusive interview during the weekend edition of The Insight on Equinox Television. Let's hear him in the following excerpt.
Confident of what may be of them. Why would people not be confident? I think that if Mutazi has been taken out of Minepat and sent to Minefi, Ministry of Finance, he may bring in ideas that may lift up the lapses that were in that ministry. For example, if Alamin Osman may have been brought to Minepat, Regional Development Ministry, I think that he can bring in some ideas. So I will not share with Cameroonians who are on the opinion that nothing good will come out of them. If nothing good will come out of them, then the head of state wouldn't see any reason exchanging them. That swap sometimes can bring out some fruit. My only problem with the head of state is that when Cameroonians cry about some particular people, we instead get shocked by the confidence he increasingly gives to them. And that is where my concern is, because it is very glaring that some of those ministers have some kind of images they have portrayed that are very doubtful to Cameroonians. You look at somebody like Madame Nalunga, Dr. Nalunga, for example. This is somebody who, when she was VC in the University of Boya, she handled a little crisis raised by students in a very brutal way that she put her public image into a very serious question. And from there, she has been pushed into a ministry that concerns education again. This is somebody who has outrightly denied acknowledging the crisis plaguing the country, the Anglophone crisis. Another conspicuous person, like you just said, was Minister Paul Atanganji, somebody who, on media, like we are, told Anglophones that they don't have any problem, and he stood by his words. The brutality of Anglophone Cameroonians that he suffered in Bamenda has made him to be considered a persona non grata in the Northwest and in the Southwest. And in fact, let us be very clear that he said there is no Anglophone problem. Now he has been placed where he has the key to actually provide solutions.
And the question now is somebody who does not recognize a problem. How do you expect him to provide a solution to that problem?
Well, as of now, let me say this. At one time, when I listened to an interview and a write-up that one of my very cherished mentors, Professor Willy Brot-Zengwa at the University of Yaoundé said, what he said was that most of these Anglophone elites who happen to be political actors openly deny that Anglophones do not have any problem. But it is very unfortunate that on the ground they are furnishing documents to that effect.
And we might be talking more about the cabinet shake-up in the second part of this newscast. Away from ministerial appointments, we take you now to the northwest region of Cameroon. The pioneer commander of the newly created 5th Military Region and Brigadier General have been told to reinforce security in the northwest region rocked by socio-political crisis. For several months now, the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Bitia-Somo, was speaking today in Bamenda while installing Generals Aga Robinson and Jules Esso into their functions respectively alongside other newly promoted officers. The Minister of Defense reminded the newly promoted officials of the task ahead, told them to beef up security in the entire region and intensify the search to uncover the whereabouts of the missing divisional officer for Batibo subdivision and the social affairs delegate in the northwest region of Cameroon. In the following excerpt, the minister delegate at the presidency of the Republic in charge of defense, Joseph Bitia-Somo, is going to be telling the newly appointed officers the task that lies ahead of them. Let's hear him in the following excerpt.
The jubilation and euphoria of the newly appointed and their relatives are legitimate, justified, and understandable, given that they are major promotions of officers deemed fit by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces to perform important and sensitive functions. However, one must be able to be level-headed in such situations in the military professional life and devote oneself immediately, conscientiously, and methodically to the work for which one has been chosen, especially in the context and the environment in which those promoted to honor this day are taking command. Mesdames, Messieurs, it must be noted, as part of this constant quest to optimize the efficiency of our defense and security outfits in the face of new pluralistic challenges and threats that he must address and which are ever-changing. War against Boko Haram, fight against armed gangs in the East and Adamawa regions, attacks from highway robbers, actions of armed poachers, stopping maritime piracy, and combating the terrorist threats, etc.
An excerpt of the Minister Delegate in charge of Defense, Joseph Bitiasomode, speaking to our correspondent in Bamenda, Ambu Stella. We take you to the western region of Cameroon. A permanent danger is looming over inhabitants of Tungang 4 in Cameroon's western regional chief town of Bafoussam. The danger has been provoked by soil erosion that has so far destroyed several houses in that part of the western region of Cameroon. Administrative authorities have simply called on the inhabitants to quit the area. Babila Jonathan tells us more in the following report.
A death trap in Tungang Kat Quarter in Cameroon's west regional capital Bafoussam, a ravine that has been widening day by day. It has already swallowed several houses. It began widening several years ago. For now, it has not killed anybody. When it was filled by runoff, we were saying that we will solve the problem, and it continued increasing in size. Inhabitants of the area covering more than 50 meters are now living in fear of the worst with the heavy rains and swift runoff. As it rains, the danger is increasing. When we came here, there was nothing. The place was normal, without any problem. Many inhabitants of this part of Tungang in Bafoussam have abandoned their homes because of the looming danger. We are afraid. Authorities have asked us to quit, but we don't know how we're going to do that because it is not easy to leave your house not knowing your destination. Look at the hole. What will happen if a child falls there? We were told that 2 years ago, runoff took away a 2-year-old girl child who died. So they have to leave and ask children not to come close to the area. It is a very dangerous zone. The senior division officer of the Mifi division has instructed the Bafoussam 2 council to urgently plant trees here in a bid to prevent further erosion.
We now talk about a land dispute here in the economic capital Douala that has rendered a woman and her 6 children homeless at Cité de Pamiers. It is a neighborhood in the Douala 5 subdivision. Their house was destroyed by agents from the Douala 5 council over a land dispute between the family and a certain Mondoa Teres Eloka Jane, that is the name of the victim, and her children, as well as the late husband, have been living in this said piece of land for several years now. Mondoa Teres claims that the house or the land or the house was blocking the way to her own house. The victims of the forceful eviction are sending a distress call to administrative authorities here in the economic capital Douala that are still to react as far as the situation is concerned. And for greater details, we are going to be having an excerpt of a member of the family hit by the forceful eviction. They were speaking to Babla Jonathan.
It's a Kolu George. What happened is that we have roughly 4 years that there's a problem between my cousin who's having this house and the neighbor. The neighbor complained of what we call a servitude, that a small road that she can pass. They came to an arrangement and they gave her a small road to pass. Everything was written down and they said, okay, the peace is okay now, everything's okay. But suddenly, 2 years ago, this woman came back and said he went and saw the Jew that they must broke this house. When I saw the council, I personally, I came down, carried the problem to the mayor. The mayor sent his DC, what we call the cabinet. He came and looked at this problem, came back and told the mayor that not everything is okay. Went over to the sous-prefet himself came down to the field and found that everything was okay. They will have all the notes, that of, especially that of Mr. Chakwi, was the sous-prefet by then, who had this note that he wrote, saying that nothing can be done without here, everything's okay. But unfortunately, on Friday, they came and broke the house. And when I went down, I called Ebanda. I went to meet Ebanda in his office, the mayor of Douala 5. I told him, I'm your secretary, I want to see you. He said, for what I explained to him, I said, look, that problem where you send your DC to come and talk about it, to come and see it, today, people have come and broken the house down. He told me, it is the prefect, c'est le préfet qui a demandé, which means he is not the one responsible. It is.
Now we'll talk about economic activities that have drastically dropped in KOC in the south region, a border town between Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea, as a result of the closure of the border between Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea. Business persons are now requesting for the government of both countries to react promptly in order to minimize the loss incurred. Let's have the details with Sumanji Gabriel.
Life is no longer the same for those who reside at KOC, a border town separating Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea. Since the missed coup d'etat in the area, those badly touched by the closure of the front line are business persons who now record several losses. We are not having it easy with the closure of the borders. In fact, all has been blocked. Even to eat is difficult. Majority of my customers come from Equatorial Guinea, and today, as they can't make it here, it's very difficult. The business persons are now pleading on the authorities of the two countries to enable that life returns to normal, as even though they exist goods, there are no buyers coming, thus causing it to decay. Business is not going on well due to the closure of the borders. Those coming from Yaoundé tell us that media talks of the opening of the front line, but it is not true. We wish that the borders are opened so that we could also go about our normal activities. Not only business activities have been slowed down as a result of the closure of the borders between KOC and Equatorial Guinea. This lady tells us, if I am found in KOC at this moment, it is because I want to go for a funeral in Equatorial Guinea. I lost my son-in-law at Ebebein. When I arrived at the borders, I was asked not to cross. KOC has a concentration of business persons, and with the closure of the borders, business activities have been drastically reduced. Apart from the problem of lack of electricity supply that has caused most of the inhabitants to get used to generators, with the closure of the borders, KOC is gradually losing out.
And that brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. Time for us to meet our guests. We shall be right back. The last time the President of the Republic of Cameroon actually renewed members of his government was on the 2nd of October 2015. Just like in 2015, here we are with another partial cabinet shake-up in Cameroon to understand the strategy behind the ministerial appointment as well as the stakes. We are going to be joined by the National President of the Progressive Movement and former Member of Parliament in Cameroon, Honorable Jean-Jacques Kindi. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking
Good evening, good evening to the televiewers.
Good evening
happy to be
you.
here.
You were an Honorable Member of Parliament in Cameroon between 2017 and 2013.
Great.
Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Now, the ministerial appointment by the President of the Republic of Cameroon has been interpreted differently by Cameroonians, whether opposition parties, political analysts, or even members of the governing CPD and political parties. Some say that it is strategic to quell the socio-political tension rocking Cameroon today and ahead of elections to be organized by the country. What is your opinion, Your Honorable?
Thank you for this very interesting question, but I'm afraid to disappoint you, because the President of the Republic is the only one who knows exactly why he appointed this one and not another one. What we can say, generally speaking, is that we have very important issues this year. We have security issues, we have electoral issues, we have economic issues, and some problems can be solved by one dedicated minister. Some other ones are tackled by a definition, a clear and neat definition of strategy and politics. By now, we see ministers appointed. We know some of them. We don't know the other one. We don't know how competent they are.
We have just very few faces, to be more precise.
Yeah, very few faces.
Others have simply changed the portfolios.
Exactly.
Have simply changed.
This is why I believe that this government reshuffle is not towards resolving the real issues of Cameroon. I mean, Anglophone crisis, I mean Boko Haram, I mean economics, I don't believe that just changing a minister is able to really find a solution for that. But when you are a head of state, sometimes you see that this minister is no more convenient to you. You believe that this one can do better, and okay, we
so
let
to
him.
you, it's a non-event. It's just like any ordinary happening in Cameroon.
For me, really, I don't see any real event, because nothing has changed drastically, first. And second, by now, we don't have any speech explaining to us why we did this or why we did that. So we wait until we see them in action. At that time, we'll be able to say, oh, really, it was something.
But we have been able to see the activities of other ministers on the field, what they have been able to do, and new ministers been appointed. You should be able to give an evaluation as a former member of parliament in Cameroon and also an opposition party leader.
When you're talking of balance sheets, do you really have balance sheets of ministers? I remember that at a certain point, maybe it was in 2013 or 2012 or something like that, the president decided to ask the ministers to have their programs and balance sheets. And evaluations had to be made, I don't know, every 6 months or every. We didn't see anything. So if we didn't see anything at that time, you have ministers in the government who have been appointed 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We don't have any balance sheets. So how can I imagine that appointing new ministers will give more clarity to what is happening? We wait, and maybe they'll do a very good job. Maybe they may not do it. But fundamentally, we are in an electoral year. So people must disclose their programs. Cameroonians must know why you are in this position, what for, and what is your plan, besides what you do has to improve Cameroonians' living. For these questions, we have no answers, and we continue to think about them rather than to try to interrogate either Mr. Atanganji is a good minister or not, if Mr. Alamin is better in planning. And I don't say that it's a non-event at all, but I say that it's not of great interest for we as political leaders.
Now, you've talked about the need for them to make their balance sheet known, or their roadmap, of course, to be known. There is a novelty, the creation of the Territorial Administration Ministry for the first time in Cameroon. We see the Territorial Administration Ministry that is now being divided. Now we have the Territorial Administration Ministry and the Decentralization and Local Development Ministries that were created recently by the government. What does that mean to you,
You know, I remember creation of some ministers. Ministry of Urban Planning and Urban Development, the Ministry of Public Contracts. These missions were handled by other ministers, and then they divided and they create a full minister. I'm sorry to say that I didn't see any real change in the policy conducted by the government. Now, maybe having a full-time minister for local, for decentralization will make things better. But if you go through that, they cannot overcome the law. The law is quite clear.
The decentralization law has been existing for several decades
yes.
now. Do you think the ministry is going to, the putting in place of the ministry is going to bring about some changes? The law has been existing, but not effectively implemented.
Yes, but two things. First of all, what are the means and what are the powers given to this minister to implement their own policy? The government, they have to act as a whole. And if the head of government gives you the possibility to do this or that, you stay on your position. So we don't know with which means and which power these new ministers have been created. And second, they have to abide the policy, the general policy of CPDM. And what we can say is that this policy doesn't want to implement decentralization. If not, it would have been for, not decades, but many years ago. That is not done.
But the head of state made it clear during his end-of-year address to the nation that he's looking forward to seeing how the decentralization policy can be effectively implemented in Cameroon to solve the socio-political crisis rocking Cameroon today.
Yeah, but I remember what Mr. Sassou Nguesso said when addressing his Congress. He said, why do you wait everything from the president? You are a congressman. You are ministers. Do what you believe you can do for the country. But most of the time, we look at the head of state. He said this or said that. He will not be the one to implement the decentralization. Public servants, authorities have this duty. But what are they doing? Quite nothing. This is what embarrasses us. We have very sound declarations, but when we come to the field, we see quite nothing done. Listen carefully to the mayors. What are they saying? That nothing is coming. They're unable to fulfill their commitments because they don't have means. But when you listen to the official speeches, they say, no, decentralization is on its way. We are going to do this. We are going to do that.
Many people have given up actually on decentralization.
This is why. And this is why.
They believe that federalism is the solution.
Our solution is federalism.
The state is
federalism. You know, it's a
what
matter.
Do you think about that?
It's a matter of organization of the state. Once you have a frame of a state, you stick on it. And the best frame is federalism. Because when you adopt federalism, do you want it or don't you want it, you are obliged to do what is expected. If you are, for instance, a governor, elected governor for a federal state, you are in charge of your state. You are very close to your people. You cannot jeopardize. You cannot tell them, I'm waiting for Yaoundé. You cannot tell them, I don't have the means, because all is set up. Let's say, for instance, that our budget is over 4,000 billions, state government. Take the budget, split it into 2,000 billions. If you split it into 10, 200 billion for each state, not considering his own revenues. Can't you do anything with that? Are you to wait all the time that if some school was just thundered by a storm, you will have to write to the minister who has to... No. You'll do it because you are entitled to do it and you have the means to do it. And second, you are able to protect your missions. It means that if a minister or governor tries to just embarrass you in your own duties, you tell him no.
So to you, you think federalism is the
solution, and I'm convinced that sooner or later, Cameroon will go federal because this is the solution.
Many are of the opinion that for the President of the Republic of Cameroon to put in place a decentralization ministry and local development is an indirect way of telling Cameroonians that no to federation. Do you think so?
I wouldn't go so far, but what I can say is that the way and the means they are taking are not leading Cameroon to federalism in a short time, maybe in a very, very, very long time. But people were educated to centralization. We went to school. When you go to ENAM, they give you the power of the prefect, the power of the governor, the power of the inspector of finance, the power of the government delegate. All these powers are related to Yaoundé. So when you are educated like that, how can you imagine that all of a sudden you change and you start decentralization? I don't believe that the way they are doing it will reach it.
And decentralization that is rejected by many Cameroonians, especially those of the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon, clamoring for change in several aspects. In several aspects, especially in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. Yes. Your Honorable, do you think that an end to the crisis is new? The crisis that has been there for more than close to 2 years now.
Yeah,
looking at the state of affairs in Cameroon today.
When you consider the point, we have short-term issues and we have long-term issues. On the long-term issues, I'm quite sure that we'll go to federalism. And once we are in federalism, we'll come to a certain peace.
But
it will not be easy, but I see no other solution. This is on long term. On short term, people are asking, some are asking federalism, some are asking secession, some are asking United Cameroon. It means that there is a real debate. Let this debate take place. Politics change after the debates have been given to Cameroonians. And then Cameroon go to vote for election and say, this is what we prefer, after we have listened to everybody. But there is no debate in our country. There is fight. And we don't believe that fight will lead anywhere. Anywhere. Look at what is happening in Africa. Each time when you have fight, you don't have a good solution. In Sudan, in Ethiopia, in all these countries. We don't want this type of situation for Cameroon.
So militarizing the two Anglophone regions can never be a solution. And what is happening in the northwest and the southwest regions?
What is happening cannot be a solution. But when you are talking about militarization, you have gendarmes who have been killed. You cannot be head of state.
And civilians
you see
too.
Civilians, yes, civilians we can more or less understand. When you kill a gendarme, it means that you are out for war. Remember Mrs. Thatcher, Prime Minister of Great Britain, what they did. When Argentina just humiliated one member of British administration, the services declaration of war. So we must not confuse the thing. When you kill civilians, you are entitled to respond for civil rights. The man you kill has his right. You have to respect them. When we kill a soldier, it means that you declare war to people with soldiers you killed. So we must not make confusion between the two. We must stop all this killing. Stop killing gendarmes, stop killing civilians, and open a debate.
But what's the justice on the part of the civilians too that are being killed on a daily basis?
Yeah, I believe that the justice is to be taken in consideration. When somebody is killing, we have prosecutor. His duty is that as soon as you hear about any murder, you open justice information to know what happened, who killed, and he has to be punished. This is what we have to do. But this doesn't allow us to consider that once my brother has been killed, I take a gun and I go for war and for killing. It will not be a solution.
Okay then, Your Honorable, this is an electoral year, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
What is the political move or political calendar, political activities of the progressive movement in Cameroon? Are you going to be taking part in the senatorials?
No. You know, we have to be realistic. We have free councillors on all Cameroon. How can we dream that 3 councillors will be able to elect us, and especially they'll be fighting our opponents in politics? When I'm a councillor in Douala Premier, in Douala First, but I'm facing all the CPDM, there are maybe 30 or so on. How fighting against them each day, I can go and tell them that, okay, vote for me? No, this is just a joke. So we wouldn't go for this election.
And for the presidential elections, what are your strategies?
I believe that everybody who believes that he has ideas for this country has to go for election, legislative and presidential, to explain to Cameroonians what are their ideas, what he believes can be done, and people will keep in mind that, okay, I listen to this, I believe it's good. But if you have ideas you believe are good and you don't go for election, where and when we'll be able to explain?
I remember in 2004, one of the politicians, opposition party leaders that we had in Cameroon that were against multiple creation or the creation of so many opposition parties. You were one of them, Your Honorable. You were strictly against the creation of several opposition parties in Cameroon. You were talking about the need for coalition, for opposition to come together and to be able to form a coalition and unseat the regime in place. Do you have a similar ideology today, Your Honorable?
No, I want just to send you back to history, because some things are not correct. First of all, when I was president of CPDM Vuri section, then you have a political turmoil. I was led to just organize a march. I was led to that because, okay, I was not the president of my party, I was a member of the party. It was organized. And what did I say? I said that sooner or later, multipartism will be there, and we have learned that. Some journalists said, Kindi is against multipartism. How can I be against multipartism? I defy anybody to find only one sentence where I declared that I am against multipartism. And second, when we had election during the first years of multipartism, everybody tried to explain what will be the best strategy to win. I said that we have to consider all the data, which means the candidates we have to run. Because some people will say, even if a ghost, we just want to remove Bia, even if it's a goat or a sheep, we agree. I say, no, a goat cannot lead Cameroon. We need the best we can produce. If not, we'll fail. And second, we need clear procedure of choice.
What about today?
Today, we are ready. We are ready for
what is the best way to bring change in Cameroon today?
For today, I believe that the best chance to bring is first to know exactly what you expect from change. I believe that saying that Bia is not good or Bia must go is not enough to bring due change, because you can change Bia and be no better than Bia. So you must know what you really prepare for Cameroon. Second, if you can unite with the people having similar ideas in order for you to govern. You cannot govern when your ideas are completely at the extremity of the political scale. And third, you must have the best people and a strategy to win. So we are out for that. But if we don't see clearly the way to conduct this type of strategy, because many people say, okay, we want to unite opposition. So come behind me and push me. It means uniting opposition. We say, no, what is this?
You want to be the leader of the opposition coalition?
No, I don't want to be a leader. I told you, for instance, that I really I am a militant of federalism. If somebody who is not convinced of federalism come to me and tell me that, okay, let's go together because we are opposition, follow me, I say, okay, if you are not leading me to federalism, I can't follow you. It's not a problem. So the main problem is not remove Biya, is what are you proposing to Cameroonians? At that time, we are ready for everything.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
To our televiewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs until we meet again. Goodbye.
Okay.